Hello, I'm Ken Anderson, anchor reporter with Brownfield Ag News, with a recap of the 2016 growing season and yield performance in south central Minnesota. We're going to visit with two Dans today. Dan Koehler, who is a DEKALB Asgrow technical agronomist based in Walters, Minnesota, and Dan Erickson, who farms near Alden, Minnesota. Well, Dan, I want to thank you for being here with us today. And Dan Erickson, I'll start with you. Tell us about your farming operation there in south central Minnesota, if you would.
Well, we raise about 1,300 acres of corn, soybeans, and alfalfa. I actually have a 400 head custom dairy heifer operation also, so I have some livestock to go with it. I was a South Dakota State grad, and when I came back in 1999, I began farming with my parents in early 2000. So just finished my 16th crop, and so yeah, it's been fun, and it works out really well having both the livestock and the crops, and makes for a good combination.
You mentioned South Dakota State. We got to put in a plug for the Jackrabbits. All three of us are South Dakota State grads. Kind of an interesting coincidence here today. So you're part of a family operation there?
Yeah, correct. My parents started farming, years ago, but are kind of on the phase out, I guess I'd call it. Real close to retirement, just a few acres that he kind of runs that we run together. Yeah, so trying to build my operation and hopefully maybe at some point in time my son wants to farm along with me. So
how old is he?
He's actually only 9 right now, so he's coming along.
Okay. Well, Dan Koehler, maybe you could talk about this growing season, growing conditions there and in that part of Minnesota, and talk about some of the challenges and some of the good things too that happened this year.
Yep, sure, thanks. Yep, so like they mentioned, my name's Dan Koehler, live in Walters, Minnesota. And for you guys that don't know where that's at, I cover Faribault, Freeborn, Martin, Watonwan, Blue Earth, Nicollet, and Waseca counties. So kind of right in the middle of the state, just north of the Iowa border. We had a great growing season overall this year in Minnesota. I would say it was long, but we got in the field in April, so we got some acres planted in April, and then we had a real late killing frost, and so we had a long growing season. Really favored a lot of the fuller season products this year. As far as weather goes, we had above average GDUs, which was excellent. So we had some really good temperatures all the way through our growing season, and precipitation also. We were probably above average on precipitation, and that really helped us later in the reproductive stages through the grain fill. That's really where we got a lot of our yield. I would say if there was any negative to the moisture this year, I had a couple pockets in Watonwan County where we received 60+ inches of rain in the growing season, which is over twice the average, 30-year average, and a lot of that came in May and June, which was really tough on that crop in that area. So that was a big challenge there. Too much rain early, and then I would say another big challenge we had was just finishing up. We were harvesting along. We were starting to get some tillage done, and then we got dumped with a lot of rain. And fortunately, we did get some good drying weather after that. We had a good window in there, but then we did get some more rain, and right now there's a lot of nitrogen that didn't get done. There's some tillage that didn't get done, and some manure that didn't get applied. So as good as it was, we had a couple challenges here and there throughout the growing season.
Did you say 60 inches in one area?
Yeah, believe it or not, I had some farmers with some fields there just west and south of St. James, where they had 60+ inches of rain. Big difference this year, was how much rain you got and when you got it. If a field had good tile and it laid pretty good and it didn't get too much rain early in May and June, it yielded really decent. But it was them areas that got all that rain early in May and June, where the yields were below expectations.
Well, Dan Erickson, talk about the growing conditions that you experienced this year then, and any challenges that you had in that area.
Well, so Dan Koehler talked about, kind of what we started out with, and I kind of look at it as we had like 3 different planting windows. For me, I didn't any corn until kind of that second window. So we planted our corn, about like the 18th to the 24th of April, something like that. But then we had like a week of rain. We actually sat for about a week before we started planting soybeans again. Things were going along pretty well. Actually, we were pretty excited about things. And then about like May 12th and 13th, we had some pretty significant frost. And I'm not talking frost just down in the low areas. It was actually, across the whole field. It was probably the worst that I've seen in that size corn. But I have to say I was pretty surprised with how it came through after that. But then we kind of basically, I guess I'd call it, lived in and grew corn in a greenhouse from then on. It was actually a really nice season. We had a little trouble, doing some spraying and things like that because of rain, because about every 3 days we'd get a little something. And I'm not talking an inch or two, maybe we got a tenth or two every 3 days, but that kind of lasted through the whole summer. And then like Dan talked, like for me immediately here, it was early October. I actually got 7 inches one night of rain. And so that was kind of tough because we were pretty excited that we were going to get in and start harvesting crops pretty early, and things were looking awesome. So that kind of definitely held us back. And then we harvested for a while, and then late October, I actually got another 4-inch rain in one night. And so that set us back. But I tell you what, if we had a beautiful November. I mean, yeah, now it's starting to turn like more November weather here right now this last week or so. But really, we had an awesome November. When Dan talks about how good our drying was, I mean, that was all through November there. But right on my farm, I looked it up, and I was actually 14 inches above my 10-year average for rainfall at my location. So that kind of gives a perspective of where we were at.
Did you have disease pressure there?
There was some disease pressure because obviously, living in a greenhouse, I mean, that moisture and stuff. We did spray some fungicide on corn, actually most of our corn for that reason. And so, yeah, I mean, there was definitely some pressure out here.
Well, let's talk about corn here. And Dan Koehler, talk about how DEKALB corn products performed throughout Minnesota in that area this season.
Yep. So, like we mentioned, we had very good yields this year, and a long growing season, which definitely favored the fuller season products. And so, with DEKALB, we're really lucky that we got a deep portfolio. We're living in 100 to 105 day, growing season here. And if you look at our lineup, we can go from 95 day products all the way to that 110 day products for you to choose from. And so, we look at the core of our lineup. We look at products like DEKALB DKC 53, 56 rib brand blend, and DEKALB DKC 54, 38 rib brand blend. Those 2 products have been in our lineup for about 5 years. Consistent, proven products, and once again this year they showed that they're some of the most profitable high-end performance products on growers' farms. And then another one that really stuck out, with that full season year we had, was the DEKALB DKC 5806 rib brand blend. That's a 108 day product that we've had 2 years in our lineup now, and amazing top end yield potential, and goes. All these products, the one thing about them is they'll go corn on corn, and they can handle any soil types. So they're really widely adapted.
Dan Erickson, how about you? What did you see from your DEKALB corn this year?
We had great results. Dan talked about all three products that I mainly used, and they turned out really good for us. I mean, it was definitely another year, just like last year, where those late season ones were better. And so, when he talks about the 108 day, that was by far, our top product for both 2015 and then again in 2016. So, I mean, it was really fun to see. I was also amazed when I talked about that, the frost damage. I mean, I can't believe what that stuff looked like. I wish I could show you guys some pictures of what the plants look like and how they responded and recovered after that frost. And it just shows, the strength of what the product is and what it can, do under some adverse conditions and then come back yields. And so, for us, we were about 12% better than our 5-year average this year. And so, I mean, everything turned out really, really good for us.
Dan Koehler, what about the yields that you saw across the area there?
Yep. So it was real common for growers to be sharing with me that they had whole farm averages go 220, 240. I would get growers sending me pictures of their yield monitors where it said 280, 300 bushel per acre, for just a glimpse. So we had, just amazing yields. I attribute it to, the above average GDUs, above average solar radiation throughout the growing season. Not having any real stress, as we're in the reproductive stage when we're going through grain fill. I've had one crop consultant share with me, they do yield estimates by kernel count for all their customers. And then they follow that up after harvest and they see how close they were. And this year, they were 20% short doing yield estimates by kernel count compared to actual yields. So we gained probably 20% roughly just in kernel fill and depth there late in the growing season from all the good rains and good growing conditions we had.
Dan Koehler, will keep you on here. Let's talk about soybeans and give us an overview of Asgrow's Soybean Performance this year.
Yep. So Asgrow did very well this year. Soybean yields were some of the highest, just right along with the corn yields. August makes beans, and we had excellent August with good temperatures again and good rains. We have a 1-4 maturity group, Asgrow soybean, and Asgrow AG 1435 brand that does excellent. A lot of growers 5 years ago, you wouldn't get them to plant the 1-4 maturity group soybean, and now everybody is planting a 1-4 here in southern Minnesota. So we can start out at a 1-4 to help spread growers' risk, and we can go all the way up to a 2-0 is kind of what we do in my market here. We had the Asgrow AG 2035 brand soybean that did also very, very good. But the best bean that Asgrow had this year is one that's a little older, and it was a Asgrow AG 1733. And it's probably, I think it's the best soybean in the industry for high pH soils. And it out-yielded all of our Asgrow beans and just about any other bean in the industry. So it had a remarkable growing season this year.
Dan Erickson, same question for you. What did you see in your Asgrow soybean fields this season and how they perform at harvest?
So we had like Dan said, a really good season. Luckily for us, our soybeans were planted just before that frost, so they did not emerge until after the frost. So in the end, they came out in some good conditions and came around, and we had a great season. When I look at, there was some disease pressure. We had a little bit of a late aphid pressure, and it wasn't quite as strong as what we've seen in other years. But there definitely was some aphids that showed up, and so we had to kind of deal with some of that stuff. But in the end, we ended up with about a 15% yield advantage this year over the last 5 years. And so, yeah, I mean, it turned out to be a really good year for soybeans.
Dan, I'll stay with you here. I understand you did not plant Asgrow Roundup Ready to Extend products this season, but that you do plan to do so in 2017. So talk about that decision.
Well, that sounds good. Yeah. So we had a few years ago, we had some preventive plant, and when we had some of that pressure, basically increased our weed base. There's a lot of weed seeds out there, and we had a big base built up now as we come. And then we also started to get some resistance. And so in my area, I mean, a couple of things that we're struggling with is definitely water hemp and giant ragweed. They've been tough to kill. Last couple of years, we've had some escapes, and so we've had to go back and hit some of that and deal with that. And so really, for us to have another product so we can use a dicamba to come back and have something different to go out and control some of that. I mean, that's really what it's all about. We using the same things we've been using and use it effectively. And then I guess the other thing that really encourages me, looking through some plot data, I mean, I know I've looked at some of the Asgrow Roundup Ready to Extend soybeans, like the 27X. I mean, they look like they're going to do really, really well. They had some really good plot data in my area, and so that's why I'm excited to try that out again for 2017.
Dan, wanted to ask you about the regulatory status of in-crop use of dicamba with Roundup Ready to Extend soybeans.
Yep, thanks, Ken. So last month, the EPA approved Monsanto's XtendiMax with Vapor Grip, low volatility dicamba herbicide for Roundup Ready to Extend soybeans. In addition, we also got approval here in the state of Minnesota, which is really awesome for growers. It's going to give them another tool in their toolbox for weed control. This will clear the way for Minnesota farmers to spray XtendiMax with Vapor Grip technology herbicide over the top of their Roundup Ready to Extend soybeans in 2017 as part of the Roundup Ready Extend crop system to help control the glyphosate resistant and other tough weeds we've been battling, especially giant ragweed and the tall water hemp species.
Well, it sounds like this is going to be an exciting development for farmers across the Midwest to be able to use this product.
Yeah, absolutely. And oftentimes we get asked about the products that we have to offer with the Asgrow Roundup Ready to Extend system and how they compared to our Asgrow Roundup Ready to Yield products that we're currently growing. And last year we put them all side by side in our plots, and so that we could have some good yield data for our customers. And they really yielded in parity. We had about 4 products right here in my maturity zone, from a 1.4 up to a 2.1. Excellent. 2 of the ones that I looked at had the strongest performance were the Asgrow AG20X7 brand and the Asgrow AG21X7 brand soybeans. So with the yield being a parity, it really comes down to placement. We got to look at the agronomics, look at your piece of ground, and make sure we place the soybeans appropriately.
Well, Dan Erickson, I'll close with you here. Just ask you if you're anticipating any other changes in the operation in 2017.
No, I mean, no major changes. I mean, you'll never outguess the year. I mean, it'd be awesome if someone would tell me what kind of growing season we'd have for 2017, and I'll tell you if we're going to go with 108-day variety or maybe something a little earlier. We tend to, I mean, for our operation, we tend to kind of like some of the later hybrids. Kind of have always been that way, but you never really know the year, and so we basically farmers live in hope, right? We spend all winter planning for the crop we're going to put in, and hope we plan right. You're never really going to outguess it, but it's a fun career. I really enjoy agriculture. I mean, there's no other profession you can find out there. You can work with your parents and kids at the same time, and every season is absolutely different, and so you kind of never know what's to come.
Well, Dan, I appreciate you taking the time to visit with us today. Congratulations on a great year in 2016, and we want to wish you the best heading into next year. That's our report for today. I'm Ken Anderson, anchor reporter for Brownfield Ag News. Thanks for joining us.